Happy Thanksgiving to all of my listeners that are in the United States. So, I thought that for today's episode, rather than focusing on, being thankful and gratitude and all of that stuff, I'm going to instead focus on the reality that I've been hearing from a lot of you about having to go and be around family, friends, coworkers that maybe are super negative. Maybe there's some past conflict there. Maybe you have a situation where your in-laws make little digs at you, whatever it may be. Like that's the reality that a lot of people face and have to deal with on the holidays, right? Um, and if you want the gratitude, thankful episode, go listen to my daughter's podcast. We are recording an episode on gratitude and some different practices and things like that. That's the Manifest Magic podcast for kids, teens, and parents. But for today, I want to talk about dealing with that. And this could be dealing with it at a Thanksgiving dinner, a Friendsgiving, a Christmas event that you have for your work or your spouse's work or whatever. We encounter these things, right? Because during the holidays, you're put in these situations a lot of times where you're kind of forced to be around people that maybe you don't really want to be around. Maybe you just have not gotten along for whatever reason. Maybe there's history, whatever. We've all dealt with that from time to time, right? So let's talk about that. And this also applies to social media, to your work environment, anywhere where you're dealing with those toxic people, the energy vampires that are just unhappy, miserable people and want to spread that wherever they go. Personally, I feel like that's how Instagram feels right now to me. Like if you've noticed, I have not been posting as much. I try to not go on there, maybe for like 30 seconds when I'm posting something because there's just so much of that icky, heavy, negative energy of people. And it's so funny. I heard one girl the other day and she said, there's a lot of people that haven't done their shadow work and it's showing because there's just been this like negative, like hateful vibe and I just don't even want to deal with it. So I avoid it. Like I am not going to waste my energy on any of that nonsense. And so let's talk about your energy because your energy and your focus, I want you to think of that as like your spiritual currency or your energetic currency, right? You don't want to spend it on shit you don't want and people that you don't even like. So when you give your energy and your focus to those situations, maybe it is the internet troll or someone in your family or coworker or whatever that's luring you in with their negative energy. Think about it as like if I start to focus on this, if I respond to this, if I put myself in the middle of it, I am spending my spiritual currency. And do I really want to do that? Think of it as like I'm wasting my spiritual currency, right? Because you want to use that energy and that focus for what you want to manifest. And it's like law of attraction 101, where your focus goes, energy flows. And so if you're focusing on all this nonsense and the drama and the hate and the negativity, that's what you're going to see more of. And so don't waste that currency on people who really don't care about you, who want to spread their negative vibes, who want to bring you down, who want to drain your energy. Okay. So I want to like just kind of shift the perspective a little bit into like put yourself in their shoes for a minute just to kind of understand that, for example, with social media, when someone makes this hateful negative comment, it's never really about you. And so just imagine, just for a moment, just imagine you are them and you're spreading this negativity. You're whatever, you're trying to get under their skin. You're making nasty comments about their beliefs or whatever. Imagine like how unhappy you have to be in order to spread that to someone else. Like, just imagine how bad you have to feel internally to go on social media and make a bunch of negative comments. Like, clearly, you're not in a good place in your life if you're going to spend your time and energy doing that. And we've all been there, right? We've all been there, and it doesn't feel good. It does not feel good. And it is so much harder to be nasty and negative than it is to let it go and like let things flow. But we've all been there. We've all had to learn that the hard way. And most of us, as we grow, as we are working on ourselves and we're expanding our consciousness, our awareness, we're, getting to these other levels of improving our life, manifesting things, that heavy weight starts to fade away. And so just think of like these people who are being negative, they're not there yet. Okay. Like they're in the preschool part of spiritual development. And maybe you've gotten your master's degree in spiritual development and they're just not there yet. And so why waste your time? Like they are not ready to receive that information and you can't force it on anybody, right? And I think I talked about this in a previous episode where Dolores Cannon was saying, I'm not here to convince negative people to be positive and live a better life. They're not ready to hear it. They're going to be negative regardless. I am here to help those people that are in the middle that want to live a more positive life. They're ready for it. They're asking for it. They just need a helping hand. And that's kind of the way I look at it. Like, why even engage with someone that's just so narrow focused? They're not ready to hear what you have to say. They're not ready to let go of the negativity that they're holding on to. And so when they make these posts, or like in the instance of Thanksgiving, and you see someone and they're making these digs or these negative comments, it might feel good in a second for them to say that, because the way that they're reacting is from a place of lack, scarcity, and insecurity. So in that split second, it might boost them a little bit. It might think that they're getting an edge over you. But long run, they're wasting their currency, they're wasting their energy, and it's just fueling that hate and that negativity inside of them. And you don't want to play with that. You don't want to have anything to do with that. And the more they manifest this, right? The more they act on this hate and negativity, the more they attract it, the more negative circumstances they find. And then they just get in this spiral, this dark spiral. And eventually it'll catch up with them. They'll hit rock bottom, they'll have their spiritual awakening, and they'll try for better, hopefully, like best case scenario, right? But they're not there right now. They're still so wrapped up in this negative cycle. And what ends up happening is they self-sabotage, right? Because whatever's triggering them, whatever's making them unhappy, they're giving their energy to that. Therefore, they're attracting more of it and they're going to see more of it. And they're priming their subconscious. They're telling their subconscious, hey, this is really important to me. It's really important to me that I'm constantly seeing people that trigger me and make me feel upset. So your subconscious doesn't know the difference between negative and positive, and is going to say, okay, we've got to filter out everything in their environment and keep giving them the negative stuff to focus on. And that is how it works. That is the reticular activating system. So they're creating their own personal hell and self-sabotaging themselves. So I wanted to start by going over that part of it because I used to get so annoyed with people that would be like, oh, you know, those internet trolls that are being really nasty and like trying to cancel you, you know, um, they're just projecting and just ignore it. And it's like, how do you ignore something like that? Well, when you look at it from their perspective, for me, you can have some compassion. Now, it doesn't mean you want to engage with these people. It doesn't mean you're ever going to like these people, but you kind of feel sorry for them because they are quite literally living in their own personal self-created hell that only they can get themselves out of. Okay, this isn't your job. And the more you try, the more you're going to trigger them. Okay. And so that's the thing. Like, I used to think, like with my law of attraction page, I am just trying to spread good vibes. I'm just putting positive things out there. I'm trying to spread positivity. I'm trying to help people. Why are there nasty people? Because it triggers them. If you're in a constant state of negativity and you have someone that's super positive or that's like spreading good, information, you might feel triggered. You might be like, well, screw you. Like, I'm living in hell. Like, I don't want to hear this. And it triggers you, right? And so it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And you have to like kind of feel sorry for those people because to be that nasty or that negative all the time, it is truly like living in an emotional hell. And that's just where, some people are. And eventually, if they get out of it, it's going to be up to them. It's not up to you. So now let's get into the part that's about the projecting. Okay. So when people are coming at you with negativity, so let's say you're at your family Thanksgiving and you have an in-law that makes a stab at you about your parenting. Okay, this is like a common one, right? You'll have maybe a mother-in-law or a sister-in-law or someone who is constantly talking about your parenting in a negative way. Just imagine that you're holding up a mirror, okay? And whatever they're saying is reflecting back on them. That is quite literally what is happening at the subconscious level. So let's say, you're at family Thanksgiving and whatever it is, maybe your son's being super clingy, okay? And they're calling him a mama's boy and oh, you coddle him too much. He's a mama's boy. And it's kind of like this sneaky dig, right? It's like you can't really address it because they're not outwardly being negative, but there's like a dig in there and it's kind of sneaky. And that's typically what'll happen, right? Is people will try to get under your skin, but do it in this sort of like jokey, sneaky kind of way. So just imagine you're holding up that mirror and for whatever reason, okay, you and your interaction with your son in that moment, emotionally, alarm bells started going off in their nervous system because subconsciously, and here's the kicker, they don't realize consciously what's happening. They most likely have zero idea of why they're feeling triggered and why they feel the need to come after you or say something negative to you. They are consciously unaware because if they were consciously aware, they wouldn't do it. They would be healing and overcoming that shadow. They'd be shedding light on this shadow deep within their subconscious, but they're not. They're completely unaware. All they know is their nervous system and their emotions are triggered. It's like an alarm clock going off that something doesn't feel good. And now I'm going to take it out on this person. And it's the same with social media, right? It's like um I could post like the most positive message in the world and not often. I like literally I've been lucky. Maybe once a year there will be someone that'll find something negative to say about it. I'll give you the perfect example. So, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I try to do this every week, usually on Sunday or Monday, but I will post this affirmation and I think of it as a manifestation game. So, I'll say, this week, I am manifesting an extra $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is. And this particular post, I changed it up a little bit and I said, Dear universe, send me signs in the form of abundance. Thank you. And it's a great affirmation. And when I post these, the reason I do it every single week is because I get so many messages from people that are like, holy shit, I did the affirmation. And a few hours later, I got my $1,000 or I got my whatever. And my friend Simone, shout out to Simone, she's like, okay, you need to stop with $1,000. You need to start doing it with $10,000 because I keep getting the $1,000. We need to up the ante. Let's keep going with this. So people love it and it works. And it's crazy how it works, but it does. So I post this and everyone's loving it. And there's all these positive comments. And then there's one person that said, and I don't even remember exactly what she said, but something like how wrong it is to think that I deserve to take money from the universe or like something to that effect, which is so absurd when you know about manifesting and abundance, and especially the universe where there is literally infinite abundance. It's so wild to think that someone is thinking, like, oh my God, I can't even ask the universe for abundance because that means I'm greedy and I'm bad and whatever. But there she was, and she thought that. And I almost said something. I almost engaged. And then I was like, you know what? I am not spending my spiritual currency trying to explain it because clearly this woman is in a place where the more I try to explain it, the more it's going to trigger her. And she's not ready to hear it. And so I was curious and I went on her page, and lo and behold, she works or has some nonprofit that's helping with food scarcity. And I'm like, wow, you know, because what's happening here is she's focusing so much on scarcity, she's going to keep seeing that. And if anyone should be focusing on trying to help food scarcity, you have to have this abundance mindset, right? And so my heart broke for her and for all of the people that she's helping because it's like this cycle of scarcity that can only be broken when you shift into abundance. And if only she thought of it as like the universe has infinite abundance, I bet her nonprofit would be doing a lot better, helping, whatever. But it broke my heart. And it's also very interesting because a lot of the times when there is a negative comment, when you go and look at the person's page, they're a self-proclaimed light worker or spiritual person or like helping, the less fortunate. Yet they have this nasty negative mindset. And I see it all the time. Like, Kathy Heller. I really like this woman. I've listened to her from the beginning. She has a great podcast, and people have been so horrible to her just based on like very nice comments she's made, um, but that like trigger people politically or whatever. And what's interesting is I will see these people and I'm like, oh, I know that person. That person is like a self-love coach. And here they are like tearing down this woman. And so it reflects really bad on them. But again, it just goes to show that like whatever it is they are projecting and it's like holding a mirror up. So when I did this abundance post, clearly this woman is like in a very scarce mindset, which triggered her to make that comment. And someone else that follows me got to her before I could and very nicely just said like, this post is meant to be positive and maybe try looking at the bright side or something like that. And then she goes and starts personally attacking one of my followers. And that's when I said, nope, we are zipping that up. We are not allowing that negative energy to come in this space. So I blocked her and I have compassion for her and you know, set a good intention for her, but blocked, deleted. And that's how you should deal with social media. No, if only we could block and delete the people in our lives or at Thanksgiving dinner or at these work parties or whatever that make these kinds of comments, but you have no choice, right? You can't delete a family member or a coworker or whatever, but you can look at it from their perspective of, okay, I am a mirror for them and I am helping to shine a light on whatever it is that's been torturing them. Because really it is like holding on to this negativity is like a torture. Again, it's like a self started personal hell. So the example with, um, your son is a mama's boy or anything like that, okay? They're not consciously aware of it, clearly. This is a subconscious belief that's probably so recessed in the back of their mind, that it's going to keep haunting them because they have no conscious awareness of it. And all they know is they're feeling triggered and emotional. And so they're taking it out on you. And so, what you can do knowing this is I always think, like, okay, I've got your card. Like, this gives you an insight into this person and the trauma and the insecurities and the fears that they hold, because it's going to be one or the other. They're either saying something negative to you because there is some type of a fear that they have, or there's some type of an insecurity, or there's some type of a trauma. So, in the case of the mama's boy comment, it could be that maybe when they were young, before age 7, when the subconscious is, so vulnerable, maybe they were mistreated. Maybe something traumatic happened in their childhood. Maybe they were a mama's boy and maybe they got made fun of for that. Maybe their dad didn't like that and said, they're a wimp or whatever. Something occurred in that child mind when they were young. And when something happens like that to a child, it doesn't even have to be like abuse. Like, a lot of times we think like, well, I had a great childhood, there was no abuse. But in the mind of a child, like, even just a negative comment, they could take it on as this deep-seated belief that, like, there's something wrong with me, you know? So in their child mind, maybe they were made fun of for being a mama's boy or whatever. And so now that triggers them. Or maybe they got no affection from their mom. And so when they see a mom and a son that have this bond, it triggers them. And they don't know why. They haven't made that connection. But there's something going on there. And the point is, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with something they've experienced that they've never dealt with, never acknowledged. And this is where my opinion kind of differs on the quote unquote like healing. um, I think in this healing self-development world, we go so far to the extreme where we want to focus so much on the trauma that happened that once again, you're spending your energy and your focus, you're spending your spiritual currency on this trauma more so than what you want. So, the way that I deal with it, and I'm not saying this is right and the other way is wrong, I'm just saying the way that I deal with it from a manifestation standpoint is all you have to do is shine a light on it. And as soon as you become consciously aware of it, you've shined a light on this shadow, and just think of it as like dissipating, right? Like when there is light and you're shining a light on something, it's no longer dark. Like, it has nowhere to hide. The light is here. And that's the way I look at it. I don't think that a lot of times we have to go so deep in focusing on that thing. We can simply shed a light on it so you're consciously aware of it. Once you're consciously aware of it, you now can catch yourself as it happens, as you go along. And so if you're holding up a mirror for someone, even if they don't recognize it and have conscious awareness of it in that moment, it is a step to that point. So you are like literally helping them to understand and to start to shine a light on these shadows that are lurking and that have been holding them back all these years. And so, again, it has nothing to do with you. It's a projection of something deep in their subconscious. And by the whole experience happening, even though it seems really negative for you, anyhow, it is just giving a sliver of light to that situation. And maybe that's the purpose of it. Maybe you are there to help be a mirror for them. And so it's just another way in which you can let it go, knowing it has nothing to do with you. And you can actually have compassion and empathy and just think, like, man, they must have a fucked up childhood or maybe something really bad happened to them for them to make that comment. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like you realize, okay, this has nothing to do with me. They're just revealing to me what their trauma, fear, or insecurity is. Um, I have a teenage daughter. You see this all the time, especially with girls, but it happens with boys too, where there's just a lot of insecurity um, at that age. And so people will be mean, right? Like girls can be so mean, boys can be mean too, especially now with social media. They can make comments about people that you're never going to hear that from someone that's secure. It's always comes from a place of insecurity where they're making that comment because they feel threatened or they somehow feel less than. And so they're going to make a comment about the way somebody looks or about something they did. And it's all stemming from the way they feel about themselves. And so just keep this in mind. It's like it's stuff that we all know, but you need that reminder, especially when you're in these situations where you're like, I don't want to be around this person. So this gets me to we're heading to our families for Thanksgiving, or if you're listening to this episode later, maybe it's Christmas or maybe it's the work Christmas party. So what do? You just take it? You just take this negativity? Do you avoid the person? What do you do? Okay, so number one, I think absolutely you can avoid the person. I think number two, having a very strong boundary. So the way that I'll handle things like this is if someone says something that's negative or hurtful, even if it's like in a joking way, if it's something that bothers me, I will like literally get up and walk away and I'll do it casually. I'll just like go into the other room or like pretend I'm answering a phone call or like go check on my kids, but just getting out of that situation. And you don't have to say anything. Like a lot of times people think setting boundaries is like, hey, if you're going to talk to me like that, then I'm not going to be around you anymore and blah, 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 and turning it into this big conflict. It literally does not have to be that. The people will subconsciously pick up on this loss of this cue, right? So like you're like the cue is the negative comment. And if the reaction is you walking away instead of you feeding into it, all it takes is one, sometimes two times, and subconsciously they're going to know I can't engage with that person. They're not going to give me the response. And so they'll move on to someone else or they'll just, they're learning. You're teaching them how to treat you based on what you're going to tolerate. So it doesn't have to be a big conversation or fight or anything. You just get up and move to the other room, ignore them, pretend you're answering the phone, whatever. The other thing is before you even get there, so while you're getting ready, while you're driving there, the morning of, whatever, set an intention on how you want it to go. And this is so important and it's so helpful. I cannot tell you how freaking magical this is. Like, I have tried this out in different scenarios and it blows my mind how good it works. Okay. So, set an intention of like, okay, I'm going to this event, this gathering, and everyone there is just going to love me. They're going to be so drawn to me. And I am going to raise the vibration of the whole room. Everyone's going to feel better being around me. It's like I'm sprinkling good vibes to everyone that I come in contact with. And they just can't help but feel really good and really joyful and really happy. And they're just going to want to be around me and talk to me. And I'm just going to leave them feeling really happy, really good. I swear, you guys, it sounds so silly, but I will literally do this. And you like people will make comments about it. Like, oh my God, I just love you. Like, we got to hang out again. And then there's times where I'm rushing and I don't do this. And it's not that there's a negative reaction, but it's like, very noticeably different in how people will act if you just take a second and set that intention. Like I'm going to make everyone in the room feel great. I'm going to spread good vibes. Everyone's going to feel happy who encounters me. Such a powerful intention and then you feel good too. So that's a good example of like a positive way to um spend not really spend that spiritual currency, but like amplify it because you're spending it, but then you're getting it back from them, right? And then the other thing is subliminals. Obviously, I'm all about subliminals. If you're not using subliminals, why aren't you using subliminals at this point? They are so effective. And it is by far the easiest thing you can do for yourself, your well being, your mental health, your subconscious, manifesting, the whole nine yards. It's just a great thing because we live in the real world where you're going to experience negative situations, negative stimuli. We did an episode recently about the negative subliminal messaging that's just in our world. So counter it with the positive stuff. And you could do this with subliminals and you literally just press play and listen. So as you're getting ready or in the morning of or on the way to the party, whatever, play a subliminal and think of it as like you are priming your subconscious for good and positive. So now when you enter this gathering, your reticular activating system is going to focus on the positive people, the positive experiences, the laughter, the joy. And it's going to kind of naturally steer you away from the things that don't feel positive. Very effective. Literally, all you do is press play. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to visualize. You don't have to do anything. Just press play and listen to the subliminal. I've got a whole library of them in the Manifest It Now app. If you're wondering, like, where do I get this? Um, and then the other thing, so you're going to set intentions, you're going to listen to subliminals, you're going to set the boundary, right, by walking away if someone's negative. And then the last is rewriting the story. Now, this is incredibly powerful. And again, just like setting intentions, it might feel a little silly, but you're going to do it anyways. And I want you to do this as a test. It's like a little experiment to see, okay, if I try this crazy little thing Stephanie's telling me to do, how am I going to feel and how is this person going to react differently when I see them next time? So here's what you do. And this is a Neville Goddard thing, okay? So let's say you've had a bad interaction with someone in the past. Maybe at the last family gathering, you got into it with your mother-in-law and she commented on how like you're the worst parent or whatever. Like maybe it was really bad. And now there's hard feelings and it's awkward and everything else. Okay. Before you go there, or if it already happened in the moment, you could literally do this instantly in the moment as it's happening. But if it happened in the past, like do it before you go to this gathering. You're going to rewrite the story in your mind. You're going to say, she adores me. She loves me. What she said was based on her own insecurity of the way she parented, and she took it out on me, but she's realized that. She's forgiven me. I've forgiven her. She loves me. She feels bad. She wants to apologize. And she just thinks I'm the best daughter-in-law in the world. Okay. Sounds insane, right? If you had a really bad interaction and now you're making up this like fake story in your mind. But remember, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy. It doesn't know the difference between what's real and fake, literally does not know the difference. It takes commands from you. So as you're repainting the picture, you're rewriting the story, your subconscious is going to think that's what really happened. Like this, everything's good now. We've been forgiven, whatever. And this is another thing where I'm going to talk about this. I have a whole program coming up about quantum mechanics. And Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, right? This is a perfect example of that because you're going to do this. And when you go and you see her, it's going to be different. It is going to be different. It could be subtly different where she doesn't say anything negative. Maybe she's embarrassed a little bit, right? But like, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like she's not attacking me like she normally does. Or it could be drastically different. Like sometimes it will literally be drastically different where they're acting like they're your best friend and they act like that never happened. Like literally that never happened. I'm telling you, like this freaking works. It's this spooky action at a difference where you're writing the story in your subconscious, but somehow, maybe through quantum entanglement, you're like rewriting the actual story. And they may completely not remember that that happened, or they might act like it didn't happen, but it is wild. So that's a little experiment you can go try out with whoever it is you're dreading seeing because of whatever past conflict. And please report back to me because you have no idea. When I hear from you guys and you tell me your stories of how different things manifested or played out, I get so much joy out of that. Like I eat it up. I love it. Um, it's great seeing it in my own life, but just knowing like other people are doing this and it worked is like everything. And so please, please, please follow up with me. I check every single DM that I get on Instagram at Law of Attraction Tribe. So just let me know if you've tried any of these techniques, the subliminal, setting an intention, rewriting the story, or setting a boundary by walking away. Let me know what happens. And I don't know. I want some feedback because I'm telling you, like, as silly and simple as these things sound, they have a profound impact. And just think of it as a science experiment, and you're going to test it out and you're going to see what happens. And that's literally all you have to do. You don't have to believe it, just test it out and see for yourself how different the gathering is when you do these things ahead of time. All right. So, tomorrow, Black Friday, this program that I keep hinting about, Quantum Catalyst, is opening. The doors are opening. So Black Friday through Sunday at midnight, this is going to be the pre-sale where you're going to get 50% off, half off the program. It's the lowest it's ever going to be. And you guys, this is a not 6 weeks, not 12 weeks, but 6 month program. 6 month program to experience quantum shifts in your entire life. Okay. So the reason I made it 6 months was because we're looking for a total transformation. This is for the people that feel like they're on the verge of a transformation. You're ready for it. You're ready to up level your life. You keep getting those intuitive nudges and you just need that little push. You need that support system, and you're done with the negative thinking. You're done with doubting yourself. You're done with having fear of taking action, and you're ready to shift your life. This program is it. And that's why I made it 6 months, because I want to give ample time and support to see a complete transformation. And we are going deep. And I am going to give your subconscious so much evidence on the science of how this all works that you will literally erase any doubt and fear you have around manifesting your dreams. And not only that, but you're going to have a community of support from me. So there's going to be calls. You're going to have direct access to me for 6 months, direct access to the community for 6 months, where we're all collectively pooling our spiritual currency together to manifest these massive quantum shifts in our life. And so if you have negative people in your environment, this is going to help counter that and help give you the expanders to expand your mindset, expand your consciousness, expand your belief in what's possible in your life. So, doors open tomorrow morning. You can text the word join to 813-755-1785, and I will be texting everyone the link. If you're on my email list, I will email it. If you need to get on my email list, I will put the link in the show notes. So I hope to see you guys in there. Let me know if you have any questions on it. Again, I check all my DMs on Instagram at Law of Attraction Tribe. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you guys have a great, um, memorable, joyful, positive experience with the people you love. And I'll see you back here on Monday.